Oh, hi. In this video, I'm going to be blowing out the in-ground sprinkler system on my about half-acre lot. I've got 9 zones, and I'm going to do it with this relatively small Porter cable Pancake air compressor. Though, stay tuned because I'm going to be doing a little bit of a modification to it, and together we're going to find out if it works in real life. If you have a new system, I don't know if I'd want to recommend you do this by yourself. Maybe better to have that peace of mind that a professional did it. So it's up to you to take that risk. Don't do as I say, just do as you feel is right for your system. They're all different, and this is just an example of what I'm doing with mine. To see if you think it's something you want to try, that's all on you. You've got to figure out whether you want to take that risk or not. Personally, like I said, my system's older. I'm willing to take that risk. Hi, I'm Jim with the Works IRL channel. It's great to have you here. If you're not familiar with my channel, I try to do things with reasonably priced tools, and we try to do things in a way that saves us some money but still gets the job done. Because I'm not just going to talk about it, you're going to see me doing it with the real tools or whatever I'm doing. So I hope you'll hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up if you like it. Comment down below with your experience doing any of the kind of things I'm doing here. If you've got better ideas, man, I'm always open for it. So please let me know. Let's get started on what we're doing here. So this is just a 6-gallon tank on this Pancake air compressor. I've had this thing for over 20 years. My wife gave it to me completely out of the blue in our last house when I was finishing our basement. It came with a finish nailer kit. I fell in love with it. It's one of the best gifts that I've ever had, and I can't believe it's lasted for 20 years. I use it for keeping the tire pressures on my vehicles at the right pressure, and the thing's just been a workhorse. And frankly, now I'm stressing the heck out of it by using it to blow out the sprinkler systems, because really sprinkler systems need a really big air compressor. And you'll often see, like landscape guys, they'll have these trailers with these huge compressors. They're very low on their pressure, but they've got huge cubic feet per minute, the amount of air that it can push out. This thing's the exact opposite. It can give like roughly 2.6 cubic feet per minute of airflow at 90 psi. Now, I actually had bought a little gauge to see what the water pressure was on my water system coming from the township, and I was actually shocked to find out when I left it for a day or two, the needle indicated that it had hit as high as like roughly about 85 or 89 psi. I was kind of surprised, and so I'm certainly not going to put that kind of pressure from an air standpoint into those lines, since water pressure and air pressure, the psi's are the same, but when something breaks or releases, air has very, very low viscosity, whereas water actually has surface tension, and you know, its viscosity is probably like 90 times greater than what you would have with air. So when something releases, air pressure at the same psi is going to be explosively more violent. The velocity is there, if I remember my high school physics correctly. Whereas water, when it releases, it's not going to be as dramatic because you can't compress a fluid, but air you can, so you can get a lot more in there. So it's like a big spring that gets compressed. So when that shoots out, it can do a lot of damage, and that's what we don't want. So even though the water pressure is at 90 psi, I'm going to only be putting in probably like 40 or 50 psi air pressure. Plus that'll help the pump. This poor little pump is going to try to put as much air into this giant, you know, in-ground sprinkler system. That's where I'm going to make a modification. I'm going to show you that right now. So this Harbor Freight external portable tank is really made just to put some air in it and then maybe fill some tires. In fact, it comes with a gauge built on. When I bought this, I ended up removing what they had on here because the orifice, you probably can't see, is really small. It's really tiny in there. The orifice is made for just filling air tires. Once I've pulled this out, then I put in an adapter, a reducer for this bung that's like a 1/2 inch or 3/4 to 3/8 reducer. And then I put in a T, and then I've just got my other adapters for doing quick connection. So what I'm trying to do here is, this 6-gallon tank is just not a lot of volume of air obviously in there, and when I hook it up to go blow out the sprinkler systems, I want to try to have a little more air capacity, sort of a, kind of look at it as like an air battery, if you will. That's where I'm adding this tank. Between 6 gallons here and 11 gallons here, it's 17 gallons. Plus when we charge the line, you're going to have probably, I'm just guesstimating, maybe a couple gallons, maybe as much as 5 gallons worth of volume all the way to the valves. And then at the controller, when I turn that on, all that air is that's charged in those lines is going to release on one zone. So I'm guesstimating we're probably pushing maybe 20 to 25 gallons worth of air. If I remember my high school physics correctly, water expands like 11% when it freezes. So I'm not going to get every drop of water out of my sprinkler system. I'm just trying to get at least that much out. Well, I'd like to say you're getting a good majority out. At least that's my theory. I've spent a fair amount of money paying for professionals to come and blow out my sprinkler every year. I think it's been about $85, maybe as low as $35. 10 years, you figure 85 bucks, that's 850 bucks over a 10-year period. You can buy yourself really nice compressors with that kind of money, or other tools. I've had someone that hooked up to the backflow preventer on the test ports, and that's actually not what you're supposed to do at all, and yet they're a professional sprinkler company, so I was always surprised by that. Those aren't made for that. Those are made for testing the backflow preventer, not for pumping a huge amount of air through to blow your sprinklers out. So I've seen that happen a few years, and I've seen other ones use a big old 3/4 or 1-inch air hose to hook up to the spigot, which is what I'm going to be doing with this. I'm going to hook up to that spigot, and then we're going to put the air through there to basically replace the water pressure, if you will. First thing we're going to do is turn off the water at the source. Turn the valve off that supplies the water to my in-ground sprinkler system. That's the first step. Then I go on the outside and open up that spigot and try to let some of that water drain out. That's primarily coming from what's up in the backflow preventer. I went online and I ended up buying a hose that actually adapts the air hose to a hose spigot. When I found that online, I thought, well, heck, I'm just going to buy that, and it got there in a day or two versus me going to the store and buying all those parts and basically being the same cost. So I kind of like the flexibility that that little hose provides as well. I'm going to turn this valve off right now until I charge the air up to this point. Then I can come over, I'll slowly open this up and let the air charge up into that. So for now, I'm just going to turn this off. When I put all these pieces together, I end up just using some Teflon tape. Again, that came with that kit my wife gave me. I'm still using that. I tell you, that was a great gift. And each of these joints, I put some Teflon tape. Some of these came with some sealant already on there, painted on. And so you're just trying to make sure you don't get any air leaks, that's all. Again, I think I may have gotten this at Harbor Freight. It's just a relatively inexpensive regulator. And then just some quick connects to put it all together and then hook it up. We'll see how it blows out. Again, just to review what we've got here, got my 6-gallon Pancake air compressor, and I bought this from Harbor Freight. It's a remnant, and I put on some quick releases on each end. So it's connecting from this tank to the external tank. I put some quick release connectors on the regulator. Had to have an adapter, I think, for this one to go from male to male to be able to get that on there. Over here, I've got a dual female to male T. I've got a reducer to go into that bung. I think it's like a 1/2 inch to 3/8 if I'm not mistaken. And then I've got quick releases on each of those. And of course I've got the original line that I'm going to take and we'll run that to the water spigot that's connected to the flowback preventer. Obviously I don't want this thing to explode, so having a pressure release valve somewhere in the line is very important. So I'm going to let the air compressor get up to its full pressure without having any air go into the line yet. So I've got the regulator turned off right now. So I'm going to make sure that this regulator on the portable tank is turned off all the way. I'm going to turn on the regulator on the Pancake air compressor. I'm going to send some air through into the tank and let this pressurize. I'm going to open this up some more, keep bringing the pressure up into that external tank, then we'll use the external tank's regulator to keep it like 40 to 50 when we charge the water lines. I'd like to point out too, this little Pancake air compressor, the duty cycle cannot be that great, meaning how long can it run. I'll point out here, there's a place that gets really, really hot. I usually feel right in here, this tube gets really, really hot. I do try to let it cool down a little bit. Right now the whole system is charged to about 100 psi, meaning the tank under the compressor is set to its 130 something in there. It's built into whatever its shutoff point is. And so when its regulator is set to 100, that means that line and the tank is currently up to 100 psi. So now I'm going to open up this and we'll let that air flow up into the water line. I'm going to open that all the way up. Alright, so now we're at the point where I'm going to have to go to the sprinkler control box and I'm going to set it for the first zone, and then that should let the air flow into that zone 1 and we should start to see the water coming out. Single station 1. Turn this off, turn the valve off. So that's going to give the system a chance to recharge by turning that off. That's turning off the valve underground for that zone. Now that tank system that we've got rigged up is going to charge back up. We'll let the compressor cool down a little bit. We'll give it another shot on zone 1. We're going to repeat this process now a couple times on each zone. So it can take a little bit of time, but again, if you got a nice day like today, it's cool out, nice fall Michigan day, and it's not the worst thing to be doing. So we got the final zone blown out. Just turn it off. I'm going to unplug the controller, and then stick with me because there's one more thing we should do over at the flowback preventer that's really important, so stick around. So I really hope that you'll subscribe. It really motivates me, and I love having all the comments, so leave comments down below if you've done this before, or you've got some advice about what pressures you use on the air compressors, or if you use an external tank like that. I'd love to hear what you do, and all the comments that you've left in all my other videos. It's been great to interact. You're all helping each other too with some of the questions, which I really dig, but I really would love to get the subscribership up. It will just really motivate me, and I really enjoy doing this, so I hope you'll be able to join along for the ride, and we'll learn some things together and find out what works in real life. Give me a thumbs up, and then let's check out this final thing that I wanted to tell you about with this blowing out of the sprinkler system. So the final thing I'm going to do now that we're all done is I'm just going to release the pressure out of all the tanks, put the hoses back and flip it upside down, let the condensation drip out. Same thing with the other one. It's got a little drain valve. I'll drain the condensation in there, put everything away till next year. Alright, so now that we're done here, the one thing I want to point out is that I like to turn these valves at about 45 degrees. That way they're half closed, half open, and that would allow some condensation to evaporate, and even if there was any kind of freezing, then you've got that. I also take these test valves and I turn them so that they're at 45 degrees as well, these ball valves. That way they're half. We will leave those at 45 degrees. I like to exercise them a little bit too, just to fully open them, fully close, and then I'll leave them about half open. Like that. I'll leave those caps I'll leave those on just to protect them. Stuff from getting up in there, but kind of loose like that. This I will close it and then I'll reopen it just a bit like that, and that's it. Time for winter to come. Oh yeah. Yep, it's getting cold out there. It's a good thing we got that done when we did. Michigan's winter is starting to be at the doorstep, so I'm glad we got that done. I'm gonna get inside and warm up. It's getting cold out there now. I'll check you out at these other videos. I'll see you over there.